Hi, Rebecca. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. And you?
I'm good. Good. Trying to unravel headphones, but I'd say I'm fighting a lost cause here. So.
You're grand. You're grand. I'll just jump straight into it because just like to try and keep this as short as possible. I know that your time is valuable, so I'll just get here. So just before I jump into the questions, I just have a script to read for you, just to give you some background information on it. So for data purposes, actually, hold on one second. I just want to double check that this is all being recorded. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So data. This interview is being recorded for data collection purposes. The information you provide throughout this interview will be stored internally and not made publicly available. The information and data gathered from this interview will be used for the development of the JumpAgrade platform. And the purpose of this interview is for me to gain a greater understanding of you as a primary user of the JumpAgrade platform. This interview should take no longer than 30 minutes, if even, and will consist of questions relating to you as a person, you as a teacher, your relationship with technology, and your use of the platform, your objectives and your pain points. I have a script of questions to ask, however, they're not completely that strict and are more of a guideline for me. I may divert from this script if I think there's something worth exploring a bit more in detail. At times throughout the interview, I may take notes, however, it's being recorded for me to analyze later. So my main objective here is just to ask you some questions and listen as much as possible to your answers. Even though this is an interview, it'll be completely informal and will be more of a conversation. So try not to overthink your answers too much. What is important for me, however, is that you try to avoid answering questions in a rose-tinted manner, and so be as honest as possible. For example, when you're speaking about how to use a specific product or technology, try to speak about what you actually do as opposed to what you would do. And finally, if there's anything you're not comfortable answering or talking about, we can just move on to another question or topic. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'll just move over this window here so I can see both questions and you. So first of all, just simply, what's your full name?
Rebecca Ambrose.
Rebecca Ambrose, okay. And what is your current occupation?
Secondary school English teacher.
Secondary school English teacher. Is English the only subject you teach?
At the moment, yeah. Well, like CSP and SPHE, but primary subjects, yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough. And do you work full time or part time?
Full time.
Full time, okay. And what school is that in?
It's Closh Damon Reach in Cork City.
No problem. And how long have you been in your job, Rebecca?
In the current school, this is my 5th year, but I've been teaching for over 10 years.
Oh, okay. And where were you before Immenreach?
I was, previous to that, I was in Waterford, in Lismore. I was in Boherbue, which is in kind of North Cork, and I was in Dublin for a year as well.
Okay, were you in what school in Boherbue?
The comprehensive school.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, my girlfriend actually went to that school.
Okay.
Anyway,
That's
okay.
classy.
What is it? So what were your original qualifications?
Bachelor of Arts in English and Media and Communication Studies, and then I did the postgrad in teaching.
Okay, and where did you do that? Your third level education?
I did my degree in Mary Immaculate College in Limerick, and I did my postgrad then in UCC.
Okay, fair enough. And so Rebecca, like, why did you want to become a teacher, kind of in the first place?
I think I was one of those people who was lucky enough to know I always kind of wanted to do it. Just I never remember wanting to do anything else. I had very good teachers in school. I liked English particularly, and it was just something I remember in third year kind of deciding that that's what I wanted to do.
Fair
And
enough.
I never deviated from it. So
you just felt as a complete vocation for you, like.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was I never there was never an aim to do anything else. No matter how I got on in my leaving cert or whatever, it was always I always had the routes planned to get into the teaching regardless.
Okay,
So.
fair enough. And do you have any hobbies or interests?
Big reader. I read a lot. I enjoy movies, I suppose. I do a bit of blogging, kind of book reviews.
Okay.
All very exciting topics.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fair enough. And do you run your own website or your own blog on it, or?
Just I have an Instagram page and I just have a blogger page as well.
Okay,
I do
fair enough.
a lot of advanced reviews for through NetGalley and things like that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Interesting. And could you describe what your typical weekday looks like? I know it's a bit different now, obviously, with COVID, but
Yeah.
could you think pre-COVID what your normal typical weekday would be like?
Yeah, as in school day or just
Yeah,
outside of
day.
school day? Yeah, well, I suppose I have small kids, so I'm up very early in the morning, about 6, to get them ready, get them to the babysitter, and then up to my commute takes about, well, from my home it takes about 40 minutes to park, but if I have to go to the babysitter and up, it takes about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then I generally would have maybe 3 to 4 classes a day. Our classes are 58 minutes long, very random
Very
number.
specific.
Yeah, yeah, they were an hour, and then this professional time per week had to come in, so they had to take 2 minutes off every class to facilitate that.
Okay.
And yeah, I did 3 or 4 classes. I generally would do all my schoolwork in school and my corrections in school, so my free classes would be spent doing that because, as I said, I have very small children, so when I come home, my focus has to be there. And to be honest, I couldn't do both, even if I wanted to at home.
Okay.
Yeah, so home then is typical mammy stuff, and if I need to, then I've kind of 9 o'clock onwards would be at school stuff, and we'll say the corrections here for JumpAgrade and things like that.
Okay, fair enough. And like, would you say how much would you say is taken up by JumpAgrade stuff then on a typical day, I suppose? Like,
well, it depends obviously on the day of the week when the work comes in. Now I'm lucky enough, there was a stage that I had 20 plus students, the vast majority who were all leaving certs, but at that point it was around the time of their pre's. It was actually shortly before all this happened, and they would all have been doing very similar topics or looking to revise very similar things. So
okay.
I wasn't having to, while obviously I was generating unique worksheets for everyone, an awful lot of it was overlapping. So you might have 5 or 6 that were all doing the same topic, and I would be planning, obviously, as the weeks were going on, that, okay, I'd keep the ones who all wanted to do Shakespeare at the same, they'd all be doing the same worksheet every week, and then they'd be getting their individualized feedback.
Okay.
On a Monday, on a Sunday, I used to try and get a lot done on a Sunday night if possible. So my Sunday night was fairly full with it, like for maybe on and off, maybe 2 or 3 hours, obviously in between everything that's going on. My Monday then, whatever free time I had to get the corrections done. Now the videos used to take me that long. I'd be pretty handy with technology in that sense, actually generating the feedback itself, but it was the corrections themselves, for English particularly, take quite a lot of a lot of time. So I used to get very little school work done on a Monday because I was focusing on this in the free time I had. And again, that was kind of broken. So I could easily be spending, 5, 6, 7 hours between Sunday night, Monday night, kind of, and Tuesday evening.
Yes.
Easily. On the correction side of it.
So you're saying it could take 5 to 6 hours just on corrections alone in a full week, we'll say.
For English, depending on what I was doing. It could take even slightly more depending on what I'd given. Because like an essay for some kids, it could be 2 pages, and for others then I could be getting 6, 7, 8 pages, and obviously it has to be very specific feedback that I'm giving, but as well then I'm conscious of keeping to within the 5-minute limit. So whatever, like I was obviously writing stuff in on the feedback itself, the sheet that they had given me, I was writing in stuff onto that, and then I was picking the most important bits to include for the 5-minute feedback. So it used to take me a little bit of time to figure out what was most relevant so that I wasn't going over time.
Okay.
I could easily go spend 10 minutes talking about one paper if I had wanted to, but obviously that's not the point of the whole thing.
Okay, fair enough. And sorry, what was that?
I was just saying generating the worksheets wasn't as time consuming because there was the overlap.
Okay, so and I'll come back to that in a little while. But okay, so what do you actually like to do in your spare time then? Once all your work is done and you get relaxed for the evening, what do you typically kind of do?
Reading generally. I've been having to force myself to a certain degree to do it. Kind of after a while, I kind of fell out of it when I had the first child there a few years ago. But just forcing, like picking up a book. I have a Kindle as well, so I carry that everywhere with me. So reading that even for a few minutes, or if there's something I've recorded on Sky, maybe watching that one episode of something, and that's generally as much as I get done in an evening. So.
Okay, fair enough. So just reading and maybe watching something on TV is typical.
Yeah. I'd have the laptop kind of by most of the time, so I'd be kind of, maybe I might be watching something and trying to get a bit of school work done as well. You know, I'd be on that all the time, figuring out how to jazz my PowerPoints up and stuff. So.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so that's kind of the end of the first section of questions, which is just background in ethnography. So next section will be just general technology questions. So are you comfortable with technology?
Yeah, very.
What is your kind of overall relationship like with technology? What sort of tools are you using on a daily basis between work and our normal? I know you've mentioned some of them before, but.
Yeah, like as I said, I'm one of these people, I like to have good technology, if that makes sense. Like I spend quite a lot of money on like the phones would have to be of a certain standard. My laptop is quite new actually. I upgraded it, not that there was anything wrong with the last one, but I just wanted one that had capability to write properly on the screen. So it's a 2-in-1, a tablet laptop.
Yes.
So I can actually do my corrections on the laptop now by writing on it, as opposed to having to print it off. So like I would be interested enough to have spent money on things like that. And in school it's Google is the
Google Classroom.
G Suite is what we use in school. So we've all gotten training in that. I've done slightly more training myself just to be kind of up on it. I've also done short courses for coding and things like that, and for teaching in school. So I have taught ICT for a few years as well, not last year though.
Yes.
So I'd be personally interested enough to go do it myself. I went and did all those courses myself, and then the school obviously utilised that. So I would spend quite a lot of time on the laptop. I'd be pretty handy in terms of figuring out how to fix problems. So when something isn't very user-friendly, it really bothers me. If I can't figure out how to do something when I know I should be able to. So yeah, Google would be the main school focus. My own laptop then is just Windows, but I would have obviously the various apps then, the Microsoft apps just for school as well. Other than that, like the Kindle phone, again, I'd be pretty good to figure things out if there's a problem. But as I said, like usability is also, if something isn't quite user friendly straight off, it just bothers me.
Okay.
Even though it obviously. Yeah.
Okay, and that's the purpose of my role here. I'm trying to improve the user experience on the JumpAgrade platform. So, what websites and apps do you find you actually use the most when you're working? we'll say
I'm
in
working,
the G Suite, even.
yeah, well, Google Classroom would be the main one. Obviously, then I'd be generating a certain amount of their work through slides and Word. I use Sheets a bit. I do like kind of obviously collating the information there, and I would be, and forms as well for tests for school. And sometimes they'd be ones that kind of autocorrect themselves, and other times then it's just something that, you know, if I need information, it's just general forms. But then if I was kind of doing it at home as well, I would use Word and PowerPoint a lot. Like I'm doing the revision course for JumpAgrade, the English revision course, and that's all through PowerPoint. But like I'm always looking to find, I suppose, more interesting visual things to include in it. Even just things like fonts, like downloading fonts that are not the standard ones, just to make things visually more interesting. And I suppose I'm always messing around with, like, I suppose, the smart graphics and the design in PowerPoint more so. I find PowerPoint better to use because obviously there's more choice within it. Slides is just useful then for the more basic stuff at school and stuff that's kids, I suppose they're more used to, like they use it in school when we're doing projects as well. They're more used to the format of slides.
Okay, and what would you say your favorite websites or apps would be? And this doesn't have to be in a work perspective, but if it is, you can talk about that too.
Yeah. Let's see, I suppose like the ones that I would use the most often would be, like, obviously on my phone would be things like social media. I'm trying to think what I particularly like using. Like visually, obviously something like Instagram is very relatively easy to use.
Yes.
Twitter is fairly straightforward, but then there's certain aspects like that you can't edit tweets. I think like things like that would bother me. I'm trying to think. Like I like, we'll say, the RT website for news because it's broken down very easily where things are. It's very easy to find certain sections. Like things like that would be very pleasing to me. Like I've taught LCVP before as well, and we'd often have to do career investigations. Sorry, this is relevant, I promise.
Yeah.
And like different college sites are a lot more user friendly than others. So like, for example, like if they're trying to find information about a course on, I'm trying to think, well, no, it's a couple of years since I taught it. We'll just say the UCC website, it might be very straightforward to find the information they need. And then other websites, you're having to dig and dig and dig. And I'm even struggling to figure out where do you find the information as a prospective student. So I'd be very, like, something like that, I'd be very interested in terms of, is it obvious from the off where things are? Yes. I like the RT website for news, I would kind of automatically go to because it is broken up very easily. I'm just trying to, that's one that jumps to mind when I think of one that is relatively user friendly, but with a lot of information on it at the same time.
So in your mind, kind of your favorite apps to use are the ones that you find the most user friendly, really? That's,
and it's not even easy, but it's ones that, like, it shouldn't, it's very intuitive, as in that as soon as you look at it, you know, right, okay, well, that's where I need to go for this. Okay. This is where I need to go for that. And even if you still have to keep clicking into stuff to get to where you want to go, it's like, it should be obvious every single time, as opposed to having to click into everything to figure out, oh yeah, okay, that's where that is.
Okay, fair enough.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just move on to the next section, which is your relationship with the JumpAgrade platform. So overall, how do you feel about JumpAgrade?
As the platform or the organization?
All of it, both as a service. Like, what's your general feeling towards it?
Oh, well, my general feeling about JumpAgrade as a whole is extremely positive.
Okay.
I used to do grinds in person years ago, but like obviously with the smallies, it's very hard to work my schedule around someone else's. So actually it wasn't until kind of last summer, I think I realized, or before last summer, I realized the format that they do it. And that was, I find that brilliant for teachers, that you can work it around your own schedule. That was the selling point for me, really. And then when I realized that they, and also the fact that it's a bonus, I suppose, that there's no direct contact between, well, there shouldn't be direct contact between the student and the teacher.
Yes.
You are obviously sending it all through JumpAgrade. Now, there is one way that has kind of, I'll explain in a minute. But basically, the idea that it's all through the company, that there is no direct contact, is also very pleasing. Just, I suppose, like, it works in the way it's done. It works, and that was the kind of a bonus to realize that I wasn't having to give out a load of personal information to loads of different students in order to get work from them or anything like that.
Yes.
So the format, the way they do it is great. I love the fact that obviously then that they help some disadvantaged students accessing their services as well. And again, that was something I only discovered kind of when I started working with them properly.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. I don't think they make enough of that actually. I think a lot of people just assume, if they are aware of it, they just assume it's a grinds company, that's it, and that there isn't a whole more to it than that. Yeah, like in general, I'm very happy. In general, like the turnaround in time for work and stuff has been fine. But actually, the things that have been the most niggly is probably the technology side of it.
Okay.
And not anything very like awful, but just niggly as well.
Okay, I'll come on to those in a small while as well. How many students do you actually tutor for?
Well, at one point I think it was the kind of low to mid 20s. Okay. And they were all but maybe 2 or 3 of those were Leaving Cert higher level students. Okay. At the moment it's down to 4, I think.
Yeah, because the Leaving Cert just dropped off.
Yeah,
that's fair enough.
It was fluctuating. I had agreed actually again just before everything kind of happened to take on more. And again, kind of on the understanding that they would all be doing fairly similar things. So like the worksheet generation would be fairly straightforward. It was the feedback side of it that was going to be time consuming. But then things happened. Obviously I'm at home since, but at home with 3 small kids. So I couldn't keep up the volume of that work. So then the students just kind of naturally kind of drop in and out anyway. And as numbers kind of went going down, I just didn't replace them, which was fine.
Okay, fair enough. But still, like over 20 students is quite a lot. From what
Yeah, it was. Like I was lucky that I was able to manage it at the time. At that particular time, it was working, but it wasn't. You'd want to have a good bit of free time to be doing that kind of at a consistent level.
Okay.
Like, it was a part-time job basically. Like I was doing as much for that. Like you wouldn't take up the same volume of work from a class that you would from them every week. Like
Yes. Okay, so you kind of touched on this already, but how many hours in a week typically does it take up for you? So think in context of both creating the worksheets and providing the feedback. Like, can you give a rough number on how many hours in the week that typically takes up?
Yeah, well, we'll just say currently with the 4, if I just like, and that's a number, I suppose that's easily enough multiplied if you want to be talking bigger numbers, but that's 2 Leaving Certs, a 5th year and a 3rd year. So obviously they all have kind of different needs. I'd be spending on the 4 of them between 2 and 3 hours. A lot of time correcting for, now some weeks depending on what they send in, it could be less, of course. But for the Leaving Certs, there's a lot of correcting involved in what they're sending in currently because of what I'm setting. Obviously, I could technically choose to be, sorry, no, 2 seconds.
That's fine.
He's singing along to Mickey Mouse. I could be setting stuff that I'm getting in less as well. Do you know what I mean? But I'm setting stuff that is like, it's essays they're getting back to me as opposed to a page of work.
Okay.
No, some of the work is more like they kind of advise from JumpAgrade themselves. They advise that the students spend a certain amount of time per week on their work. But in order for, like, see, English is a bit funny that way, like some of the questions in the exam, you have to spend X amount of time on them in the exam, so they'd be doing that. I'd be advising them to spend that amount of time on the question for the work they send me, and that might be slightly more than what JumpAgrade has suggested that they would spend on work. So that means then more correcting them as well. Yeah,
that does make sense. And can you roughly think, back when you did have over the 20 Leaving Certs, roughly how much that was taking up for you in the week? Or
that was taking up a huge amount of time. Huge amount of time. I was spending all of Sunday night, all of my free time on Monday, and all of Tuesday night. As in, there was some weeks and around that time I actually wasn't submitting my work until Tuesday morning, and by Tuesday morning that could have been 2 a.m. I was missing out on sleep to get it done. Like,
okay, fair enough. Yeah. So it probably, the total figure and the hours per week there would probably vary greatly.
It would, see, again, it depends on what was coming in, but at the 20 odd students, there was a huge amount of time spent Sunday, Monday, Tuesday when I had the free time. Like all hours free on Monday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday were spent doing it. And then kind of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was fine again, and it was Saturday and Sunday I was getting worksheets ready again for following and waiting for the corrections to come in. And I was trying to get to the corrections as soon as they were coming in to get ahead. But I couldn't put an exact hour figure on it, only that I know all of my free time at that level of students was spent on the days. And it was the Wednesday morning, some days that I was actually getting the work in because it was so
Yep, fair enough. Okay, so how difficult or easy do you find creating worksheets?
Creating the worksheets, absolutely fine. Like once I have the template to work into, that saves a lot of trouble. And for English, an awful lot of it is working on past questions, or you might only actually sending a question that's 2 or 3 lines long. You know, it's an essay question or, you know, a short question. Like for junior cert, you might be giving them like 2 or 3 pages to fill in. But for the older students, it would be more, you might only be filling in 2 or 3 lines into the template. Yeah.
And how long typically would it take you to create a worksheet for one student?
Well, again, it depends on what the topic was. It might, like the actual literally making the worksheet might only take me 5 minutes, but I might have spent 20, 25 minutes trying to figure out what question would suit, or looking at what we had done previously on a topic, going through those to make sure I wasn't repeating something. Or trying to find, like, you know, trying to word things slightly differently. And also then, depending on if it was something they were struggling with, going back through my own notes for school or the revision course to find slides that I could include as images as help for what to do for the question.
Okay, so
like initially making it might only take me a couple of minutes, but there could be up to half an hour then actually looking for the information to put into it.
Okay, fair enough. So it could take you anywhere in the region from 20 to 30 minutes to make in the whole process of a worksheet. Okay.
Yeah.
And what tools or apps do you actually use to, like, when you're creating a worksheet? You know, where do you actually pull the content from? Where, you know, and how do you go about actually the technical side of making it?
Yeah, well, an awful lot of it would be from past papers for actually all levels. But also I'd be going back through my own notes, say work that I would have given my own students to see, you know, questions worded slightly differently. So an awful lot of it would be from maybe examination study, to get past papers, or my own notes. And then what I generally would do if it was a question I was taking directly and it was maybe slightly longer rather than typing it in, I might, if I was taking it from something else, we'll just say from a past paper that was available online, I'd use the snipping tool in either that on my PC and just snip the relevant page and paste that in as an image, or else I would do the Control-Alt print screen and crop it then in Paint to the relevant piece that I wanted. So I was generally, if I was taking it from online and I needed to take it directly and put it in, it would be putting as an image onto the page. I'd be pasting an image in. It was something shorter that was only, or obviously then if I needed to, if it was something kind of extra information, I'd just be typing it in, but I was keeping it as basic as possible in terms of including, you know, the images.
Okay, fair enough. So how difficult or easy then do you find providing the feedback? I know you've kind of touched on this before, but if you could elaborate even more again, just what's, you know, how difficult or easy can it be?
Yeah, well, the workload itself obviously can be quite long depending on what you're correcting. Obviously, because I'm very conscious that the whole purpose of it is the feedback. Like the feedback is the big thing with them, that I really want to make sure I've gone over everything with kind of a fine-tooth comb, and I'm obviously then correcting and kind of keeping in mind how this would be corrected at Leaving Cert level if this was a Leaving Cert question. So the correcting itself could take me quite a while. But then what I was doing, so initially what I was doing in terms of actually generating the feedback sheet, then I had the phone stand, you know, and I had the printed page in front of me on the thing, and like I had my phone, you know, looking down onto the page, and I was talking and recording it that way just through the camera on my phone. So I was printing the pages off, correcting on them, recording the video with the phone looking down at the pages on the desk in front of me, And then I was taking pictures of the pages, re-uploading those to Google Drive and inserting those into the feedback sheet plus the link to the video that was uploaded to the shared drive in Google.
Yes.
What I've started doing now is, as I said, I got my laptop, a new laptop since, so I can actually correct on the laptop. So what I do is I download the sheet or their work from the JumpAgrade site. I then do the corrections with my pen or whatever onto the laptop itself, save that. I'm actually not sure what format, some sort of an image file, and I just re-upload that then into their relevant Google folder in my own drive, and insert those. Then it's never actually coming off the laptop now. I'm not printing it anymore. It's all staying on the laptop. It's the same process in the end, that I'm inserting a picture of the corrections I've done into their feedback sheet plus a link to the video. Now I've actually started doing screen grab video. So once I have their work re-uploaded back to their folder, corrected, I just bring that up on my phone. I have a screen recording thing in it, and I record it then by talking into the phone instead of looking down on the video or on the desk. Yeah, and then I just upload that file. So it's a much smaller file, but it's obviously still, the quality is still perfect. I'm not having to worry about zooming in on the page. I'm not sure which works better, because I'm not sure what the students prefer. Never kind of asked, but for me, myself, it's much easier to do the screen grab than having to sit at the desk in the office, because I can do the screen recording anywhere like that now. I could be over on the couch, I could be up in my room. I don't have to be in the office, which actually finding time to go in there when it was quiet was tough with them. So
so then we'll say, like you said, you used to have the phone up on the stand. You don't obviously do that anymore. It's just the screen recording off your laptop, is it?
Screen recording, yeah. But I'd be interested to know, do they have a preference? Like, should I be doing it from looking down at the thing, looking down at the paper? I'm not entirely sure, like quality wise. I'm not sure, do they have a preference, JumpAgrade themselves? Do the students have a preference? From my point of view, I found it easier to do the screen recording. The only thing would be that, obviously, like, I can tap on the screen on the phone and it brings up a small little cursor to show like where I'm tapping. Like the only downside to it is that I'm not able to literally point to something like I would, if it's on the desk in front of me.
And we'll say, when you have to do that feedback, I know you say that you can do it anywhere, but like, do you typically have to do that in kind of a quiet location still? I still would, but at least what it means now is that if the kids are down for a nap or something, but I still have to be in the room with them, I can do it here while they're quiet, as opposed to having to go out and be trying to listen out. So and like that now, we'll just say if I was out in the hallway, after throwing the washing in the machine, I could stand in the hallway and do it. I'm not having to be worrying about sitting down at the desk with stuff in front of me. It's literally on the phone. It's all in Google Drive anyway. Anywhere that's quiet, so.
Anywhere that's quiet. Yeah. But it is always quiet. I make sure that that's much easier from my point of view to do it that way. But obviously, if I was instructed otherwise, I would.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so what do you actually like about using JumpAgrade, the platform itself? What do you actually like about it?
Yeah, well, I like, in fairness, there's relatively little on the tutor site, so it isn't one of these cases necessarily where there's so much on it that you're trying to figure out what's going on. Once you kind of use it once or twice, it's pretty. You know what you're doing. You know where to go to upload your feedback. You know where to go to upload your worksheets. I am familiar with Google anyway, obviously, because we use it in school, and it's just something I would have been aware of myself anyway. So the whole using Google Drive side of things and uploading from there, as in for the videos using Google Drive and stuff, was fine with me. But if someone wasn't familiar with Google, it can be a slightly fiddly process, having to move, links in and inserting things. Yeah, it's just like there is a bit to it. Once you get used to the actual generating the worksheets and the feedback, it's fine. But it can be a little fiddly. Like, there just seems to be a lot to do. Site itself is okay in terms of, there isn't a huge amount on it. which I suppose can be like, there isn't a massive amount of information about any of the students on it. And we'll say like, I currently still have students in my list of students who I don't have. So I'm not sure how often that's updated, but
Okay,
that's
fair
what I
enough.
like.
And what did you find was kind of interesting or surprising when you first started using JumpAgrade?
In general, or again, the platform?
Either. Was there anything interesting or surprising kind of about either?
Again, I did really like the way that the work is sent and received back. Obviously I get an email notification as soon as work comes in, so like that I can get on it straight away, which is great. And I do really appreciate the anonymity to a certain degree. Obviously they know my name, and I'm not sure, do I need to be giving stuff about what I would suggest improvement wise at this point, or will I wait?
I'll be asking you a little bit more about your pain points in another section.
Yeah, I really like the anonymity, to like as anonymous as you can be when they have your name and know what your subject is. Like, I like that it's all done through the company, and that like if we have to contact them with a question, like the students, you contact Susanna on Slack, and she will contact them. It's my first time using Slack actually, so that's been interesting.
Okay. And what's your thoughts on Slack?
I really like it as a platform, actually. I really like it. There was an update only in the last, an update to my phone anyway, only in the last week or so, I think.
Yeah.
More user-friendly since that. I do really like that as a platform, and the only thing is, I think maybe in certain with so many of us in it, if we are trying to contact, we'll say Dave or Susanna or anyone in the office, it can get a bit lost, even if they're directly like added in it. I think sometimes that a question could be asked by a general question to JumpAgrade, we'll say, from one of the teachers, and it just mightn't get answered for a while. But as a platform, it's great, and it works really well, I suppose. And again, it's relatively anonymous, like other than seeing my name and a picture. If I upload it, and it like no one knows who I am, you know.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
That's great. So just moving on to the next section, which is main objectives and motivations. Actually, sorry, just before I move on to that, how long have you actually been tutoring with JumpAgrade?
It is since last October, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I was aware of them much longer than that. Well, maybe the year previous, but like that, I actually just assumed it was one of these things where I had to be available like this to do like an online class or a grind with the students, and it wasn't until I realised the format that they were doing it in that I applied.
Okay, so fair enough.
I would have applied a lot sooner if I realised that. Yeah.
That's fair enough. Okay, so why did you kind of initially sign up to tutor with JumpAgrade? Can you think?
I was on maternity leave part of this year as well, and I knew I was going to have a bit of free time, as in compared to what like my full days at work. As I actually just going back to what I just said though, I was aware of them from the previous year, and I actually went to sign up and went, oh no, I like thinking I couldn't commit to one-on-one things like this, thinking that's what the format was. And I remember, I think they sent an email out to the school at some point early last year, and then I saw an article about them around that time as well, and I looked into it again, and I realized the format that they do it, and that prompted me then. I suppose grinds are something like I don't mind doing. I knew I had a certain amount of time, and when I realized that the time was mine to make sure, you know, as in that I could organize my own time around what needed to be done, that was the big push. Yeah.
So would you say it was the freedom and the more control that you have with JumpAgrade as opposed to
100%, yeah. Like there's no way any other system, there's no other people or crowd doing it that I'm aware of that does it any differently to kind of a standard one-on-one kind of way, or one-on group, you know, that I literally had to be there. If I had to do this, I wouldn't have signed up, basically. I couldn't have. And a lot of teachers would be the same, that they just have so much going on. They might have extracurricular activities. They might, again, family commitments, that the fact that you can work around it. And in fairness as well, they will approach you, like Susanna or whoever will approach and say, look, we have an extra student or certain extra students looking for a tutor. Are you willing to take them on? So you have control over how many you work with as well, which is great.
Okay.
So
Very
there's
good.
I was never put under pressure to take on any extra students. If I did, it was because I wished to, which is great as well. You control how many you're dealing with, which is obviously important.
Okay, great. And what would be your kind of main objective when you're tutoring for a student, can you think? You know, what do you
Yeah,
like to
well,
see each week in terms of?
progress would be my big thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, it takes a couple of weeks. I know that they fill out kind of an assessment of what they want to achieve, but I often find that they might say something very general like, I want to do more about Shakespeare, and that's fine. Obviously, they want the knowledge, but it's only as a teacher then when you're actually seeing their work that you see, okay, actually the reason they're not getting higher grades all along now, and the reason they're doing a grind is because their answers are actually very short, or they're not planning. And like it's me seeing that as opposed to them. Now their teacher could be telling them that, I have no idea, but it takes a couple of weeks to figure out what kind of, in terms of level of work they're putting in, what that is. And my big thing then would be working on that with them through whatever topic they wish to be doing. So I let them dictate the topic, obviously. You know, I'm not going to make them do something they don't want to be doing. But then I would like, there are certain students that just do not write enough, and my thing every week would be trying to get them to write more. We'll say, for example, or some people need to focus on their planning. So it's figuring out as quickly as I can what their weakness is and why they're not doing better as good as they hope. And then working on that within the topic areas that they want covered.
And you try to communicate all of that through the feedback then, you know, that they're simply too short.
Yeah, in a very nice way. Yeah.
Yes.
As nice as possible. Like, you know, it would very much be in a, oh, maybe you could add in a sentence or two here kind of a way, or it'd be great if you put in an extra little paragraph here. Like, I'm always suggesting that they do X, Y, and Z, as opposed to saying you have to, because that's not the nice way to do it. So, and then generally 9 times out of 10 you will see the students doing it as the weeks go on.
Okay, fair enough. What is kind of the main reason you've continued working with JumpAgrade until now? You might feel that this is a repetitive question, but is there anything in particular that
the flexibility mainly? Flexibility is fantastic. That's what has kept me going throughout it, and in fairness, they've been really good. Like, more than once I've said to them that, like, I have been under pressure with time, just again since everything happened and no childcare, and like literally having 3 kids stuck to me all day. Like, I only have so much time these days, and like they were very having all of us agreed at one point that I was going to take X amount more, to me reducing it, and that all happening in the matter of 3 or 4 weeks. When all the lockdown happened or whatever. They're very easy to deal with. They're very accommodating as a company, like the people I've dealt with, and the flexibility in general is fantastic. So if I wasn't working with them, I would not be doing it with anyone else. That's just that.
And if you were to recommend another teacher to join JumpAgrade, what is the kind of unique selling point? What is the thing you would tell them you have to join JumpAgrade because?
Well, I actually have recommended one of my teachers, and I think she expressed an interest, but I'm not sure her subject is one that is needed. My big thing to her was the flexibility of it. Like, she would be helping a couple of students in person at home. So my thing to her was, you can do it in your own time, and like, you know that you have these 3 days to do the feedback, and it's something that can be done like, if you have a bit of time during the day when you're in school and you have your own work done, it's something you can be doing on the laptop at school or at home. And the flexibility was the big thing. Flexibility. And like, we work in a deaf school as well, so I was saying to her about the fact that they do help support deaf students getting access to their grants as well. Was an additional selling point. But I suppose as a person and as a teacher, the flexibility of it is definitely the big thing, and the anonymity, actually. We've no idea, like, we've no concept, unless the students happen to mention something in a piece of work which does come up in English, or they do happen to do I've no idea where in the country they're from. Like they could be from where I'm from, you know, for all I know. So just the fact it's kept as anonymous as possible is good, like, or relatively anonymous.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so Rebecca, this kind of brings us on just to the last section worth of questions. So we're nearly there. This last section is just about your pain points. So what, you know, what the more negative sides of it. So quite simply, what do you dislike about using JumpAgrade?
Yeah. Well, in general, like the site itself, as I said, has relatively little on it, so it's easy to find kind of what you need to find. But just there's a couple of small things, as I said. Now, if they were more user friendly, I'd be so much happier. Now, I suppose one thing is that sometimes I'm downloading stuff on my phone, other times I'm downloading it on the laptop, and it's not as user friendly on both. You can still see the same thing, but it's a lot harder to use it on the phone.
Yes.
Especially if, like, so we'll say when I had the 20 students, or even anything beyond 6 or 7 students, when I start uploading work, so we'll just say here on the screen, kind of at the top in the middle of the screen is where you're going to upload for each student. That's fine. So I'm uploading my feedback, and then their name pops down to the bottom of the screen, and you can add their worksheet at that point.
Yes.
But the problem is then, as the students add up and they're going across the bottom of the screen, once it goes beyond a certain point in the screen, it's actually really, really hard to get it back. So I either, like, depending on what I'm using, if it's my phone, I obviously turn it horizontally and try and zoom out.
Yes.
But again, even beyond a certain point, you still can't go across the screen. You can't move the list of students across to get to the student you want if they're at the end of the list.
Yes.
The laptop, again, zooming out to a certain degree will do. And I did find, though, one time I was really stuck. I could not get the student's name on the bottom of the screen. They obviously had gone to the very bottom of a long list of students to add their worksheet. And I logged in on my husband's iPad, and I could use the file on the iPad.
Yes, that's you're the second person that I spoke to in these user research interviews, and that's the exact same problem that's come up again. And that it was accessible through an iPad, but not through a laptop.
And like, for me, like, we have an iPad in the house, so it wasn't the end of the world if I had to log on to it. But you see, then, like, that, it's his account. I was having to log into my Google Drive on his iPad to download the files, to do that. And when, like, when I technically should be able to do that on either my laptop or my phone, that was annoying. Now, it didn't happen to me all the time, but it happened often enough that it's something that that definitely sticks in my mind. The other thing is that there's no facility to upload the worksheet until the feedback is uploaded. Now, I get probably why they do that.
Yes.
But, like, you have to upload the feedback first and then upload their worksheet. Whereas some students, depending on what they've sent in, or it might be a 2-part piece of work that I wanted them to do, part 1 of it one week and part 2 the following week. Like, I might have the worksheet generated already, and it would just be handy to be able to upload the worksheet and then do the feedback. But the fact that I have to do it feedback then worksheet just means that, depending on how late they send the work in, because some of them weren't sending it in until a Monday as opposed to Sunday evening. It was just the extra bit uploading that I could have done a bit earlier.
Okay, and have you ever kind of thought about a solution for this challenge or a workaround for this? Or
well, I suppose, like, on the site, to the best of my recall, like, there is a feedback or, like, download their work bit at the bottom, but there is a tab on the side. There is a button to click on for the worksheets, and that's where the worksheets, where you can see what worksheets you have uploaded, as in once you have them uploaded.
Yes.
But when you go into that initially, before you have put in the feedback, there is no facility there that I'm aware of to put in the worksheet at that point. So even though there is a worksheet bar, menu, whatever, there is no facility at that point to put in the worksheets. That might be to be able to put it in there on the odd occasion that you would have the worksheet done first, because it might be something that is following on from the previous week, would be great. Also, on where they have the information about the students, like, it's put in when they sign up, but it's not updated at any point. So, like, I might have had someone for most of the year, for example, but I still only have their information from the very first time they signed up. So, like, there is no update on the topics they want to do. So unless I'm directly asking the student in my feedback video
Yes.
to tell me next week, do you still want to carry on with this, or do you want to do something else? I don't know.
Yes.
So it might be something that's worth looking at, where the student can update it, or they're encouraged to update their information regularly.
That would be, so would you say that maybe might be one slight downside to the anonymity that you said is such a bonus, such a selling point of the site, that maybe there should be another kind of communication method between you and the student? Or is it kind of?
Well, like if there was a message or tutor option, you see, it'd be fine to say that they could message us to leave us know something like that, or that they could reply to a question. However, that then could end up being them asking loads of questions as the week goes on about other stuff. So, and actually, just something I did want to point out in relation to that is one of the students realised there about a month or 6 weeks ago. So what we're doing for videos, as I'm sure you know at the moment, is there's a shared folder which JumpAgrade created for me. I upload my videos to that, and then I share the link in the Google document.
Yep.
Maybe this is come up from another tutor, I'm not sure. One of the students, it occurred to them that they can just comment on the video, which directly comes to me.
Yes.
As opposed to, so that's direct communication with me.
Okay.
And like my email address and everything, obviously my Google account now, which is my personal one, it's not my school one, obviously, is obviously on that video. So technically they had, if they went looking, they did have access to my, or possibly had access to my Gmail. And it did, one of them did comment on the video with a question.
Okay.
So there is technically a way for if it occurred to them, there is a way for them to say stuff to us if they wanted to, that isn't through JumpAgrade itself.
Okay, and I'm sure, like, I've spoke to Dave about this in the past, about the issues around GDPR with the shared folders and all this, and he said like that, he's under the belief that there is no way of direct student-teacher contact, so it must be just an oversight, I'd assume. But I wouldn't have realised that myself,
Yeah, it was just a comment on the video I'd sent. So like you can comment on any piece of work, because you see, because it was shared with them, because you share it with them, and I went looking into this to see could I turn off comments on the videos I put up, and apparently not. That if you've shared it with someone, they have access to the video, so technically they can change. Not that they can change the video, obviously, but that they have access to comment on the video, reply to comments if they wanted. So then I was actually really worried that that the same student would continue to do that. So in the next feedback video, I answered her question. I didn't want to ignore it because it was an important question, but I did say, look, I think we're only supposed to contact, there is only supposed to be communication through JumpAgrade. So, and she didn't, again, in fairness to her, but it definitely is something that could happen, especially if it's a student that uses Google in school a lot.
Yes.
And would possibly comment on work from teachers. Or find comments, they would be aware that is something they can do.
Okay.
So maybe if there was, I'm not sure what you could do instead, but a facility of, so like where we're uploading the file to something else. Like I don't know that there's a way that you can share a link with them, a video link with them, that they can't then comment or have access to.
Okay, fair.
My information, yeah.
Okay, great stuff. So just the last question then, quite simply, what do you think would improve JumpAgrade?
Well, I think as a concept, I'm not sure there's a whole pile else that they could improve on, except maybe just more updated information on the students themselves. Mm-hmm. It's great to know what they were aiming for as things were going along, but it would be nice to know, like, on a updated basis, like what topics they now want to cover, as opposed to what they wanted to cover 8 weeks ago when they started, and so on. So that would be good from my point of view. Obviously the glitchy stuff, or the kind of niggly stuff on the site itself, would be great. And if it was seamless across all platforms, that would be great. Other than that, like in general, I'm very happy. Like they were niggly things, but like they're not something that is going to deter me from
using it,
from working for JumpAgrade, yeah.
Okay.
Or would deter me from recommending them to anyone, either student or teacher. Like.
Okay, fair enough. No, that's great. Thank you, Rebecca, for your time. You've given me some great insights to work on there, and I'll be going through these. I still have many more teachers to interview, and then I'll be consulting back with the team in JumpAgrade to try and make some suggestions on how we can hopefully improve the service going forward.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
no, again, thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day. All right.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye.
No problem. Bye.
Bye.